Ever imagine like a weapon so powerful it makes nukes look like, firecrackers?
Oh, yeah.
And then picture that thing falling into the hands of someone, an enemy even, that you thought you could manipulate. It's a wild thought, right? Well, that's the kind of scenario we're diving into today with Cassandra's Tears, that awesome sci-fi serial.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And what's so fascinating about this story
Uh-huh.
is it takes those classic space opera elements like political intrigue, futuristic tech, a full-blown interstellar war even, and it just uses them to explore these like really deep consequences of choices we make, even when we're the ones who think we're like calling the shots.
Totally. It makes you wonder, like, how much control do we really have, when the stakes are this high? Because we're talking secret projects, double agents, and a bomb that could, like, rewrite the whole galactic map, right?
Right, absolutely, yeah.
So our deep dive today is going to be all about uncovering, first, what this whole Cassandra project really is, and then who are these players? Because they each have their own agenda, so to set the scene, I guess.
Yeah, so we're like dropped right into the action
Good.
with Cal Mason.
Oh, Cal Mason, right.
Yeah, he's a pilot in the UE Navy.
That's the United Empire of Earth, right?
That's right, the United Empire of Earth, for those who, are new to this universe.
Right.
But yeah, he's got skills, definitely, but he's also, kind of a loose cannon,
Yeah, he's always getting into something.
which, yeah, tends to land him in some hot water.
And speaking of hot water,
There we go.
his past with Lieutenant Penelope Ayala
Oh, boy.
adds a whole other layer of intrigue to this whole thing.
Yeah, that's one relationship you got to read to believe.
Yeah, their history is, it's messy, to say the least.
Yeah.
And it definitely comes back to complicate things down the line.
Oh, yeah.
But just to back up a bit, for those who maybe haven't had a chance to, check out the story yet,
No.
this whole thing takes place against a backdrop of this brutal war between the UEE and the Vandul.
Right.
And if you don't know the Vandul, they're basically like the barbarians of space,
Yeah, they're hardcore.
Fierce, relentless, and not big on diplomacy.
Not at all. And this isn't some like far off conflict either. You know?
Yeah.
The story makes you feel the pressure that like ever present threat they represent.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder like, how do you even begin to reason with an enemy that is just hell bent on your like complete destruction?
And into this whole volatile mix, you drop in Sasha and Warden Monty.
Oh boy, here we go.
They've got their own score to settle.
Oh, they ever.
With the UEE, no less.
Yeah, they're not messing around.
And let me tell you, these two, they are driven.
On a mission.
Revenge, it's like the name of the game for them.
And they are not playing by the rules.
Oh, no. They are willing to play dirty to get what they want.
Which begs the question, like when you've been wronged, how far is too far to go for justice?
Yeah.
Cassandra's Tears doesn't give us those easy answers, you know what I mean? It forces us to really like confront those gray areas of morality.
Yeah.
Especially in a universe like this where the line between good and bad, it gets really blurry.
Yeah, it's a tough one. So we've got all these players, right? Each with like their own motivations and goals. But the real mystery here, at least for me, is this Cassandra project. What do we actually know about this thing?
Well, and that's where like Cassandra's Tears really gets you hooked. Because the story kind of doles out these clues, but like so slowly.
Oh, yeah.
Like just enough to keep you wanting more, like a stingy bartender,
Right.
But from what we can piece together, we know it's like a top secret UEE project.
Okay.
And it's rumored to be a weapon, but unlike anything we've really seen before.
Yeah, when I hear that, I think of like the Manhattan Project, but like on a galactic scale.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because then you've got this guy, Grady Monk, who pops up trying to sell this like seriously dangerous tech, right?
Right.
And the story doesn't like come right out and say it, but you can put two and two together. You can practically smell the Cassandra project all over it.
100%. And then you see what this weapon can do.
Yeah, and it's not pretty.
Not pretty at all. Ships, like reduced to, and I quote here, molecular goo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. There are mentions of a pulsating star. It's like, I don't know, it's not lasers or anything like that, It's like the story's hinting at some kind of fundamental force of nature that's been, like, harnessed.
Right.
Maybe even, like, weaponized energy on a subatomic level. It's those little details,
Yeah.
They really get my mind racing, trying to figure out what it could be.
Well, and of course, that's where our boy, Cal Mason, comes in.
Yeah, he's not going to sit this one out.
Because he's trying to stop this thing from falling into the wrong hands, right? Like, he's pulling off these crazy maneuvers, always one step ahead of, well, disaster, basically.
Yeah.
It's like watching this, like, high-stakes chase, but across the galaxy with, you know, the fate of everything hanging in the balance.
And it's in those moments,
Yeah.
like those moments of intense pressure that we see Cal's character, like, truly tested.
Yeah.
Because he's forced to make these, like, impossible choices, like who to trust when everyone around him seems to have an agenda.
Right, right.
And it really makes you think, like, what would you do in
Yeah.
his shoes? How far would you go to stop, like, a total catastrophe?
Like, you're right there with him, like, you're put in that cockpit with him, feeling that weight of every decision he makes.
Yeah, for sure.
But just when you think you've got a handle on things, right? Like, you think you know where the story's going.
Yeah.
It throws another, like, curved ball at you.
Yeah, here it comes.
The Van Duel.
Uh-oh.
And we're not talking about some, like, border skirmish here, okay? This is a full-blown invasion.
Things are about to get real.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's not just their sudden appearance that's so shocking either. It's like the Croshaw system becomes this chaotic mess. And through it all, you see the Van Duel's, like, strategic cunning.
Yeah.
Like, they're not just brutes,
They've got a plan.
They have a plan, and they're playing for keeps.
Which makes them even more terrifying, honestly.
And this is where I think Cassandra's Tears delivers, like, its biggest gut punch, because we find out that the Van Duel, they were the puppet masters all along.
Oh, man.
It's crazy, right? Like, they used Sasha and Warden, those two vengeful souls, as pawns, basically, in this big game to get their hands on this weapon that everyone is so afraid of.
The very weapon, yeah.
Talk about a twist.
Right. And it's such a brilliant move, too, when you think about it. Because they exploited human nature, our ambition, our tendency to underestimate our enemies. Like, it's kind of genius and terrifying at the same time.
Yeah.
And that ending with the Van Duel flagship destroyed and the fates of Sasha and Warden and everyone else on board just left unknown.
Yeah.
It's unsettling.
Totally.
Were Sasha and Warden, like, aware of their part in all of this? Did they even care? We just don't know.
It's a lot to take in. It's like that saying, right? In the midst of chaos, there's also opportunity.
Right.
But here, it seems like the opportunity is all for the Van Duel and everyone else gets the chaos.
Exactly. And what's even wilder is this wasn't just like a smash and grab,
Right.
They had to be playing the long game here for, like, years, probably, manipulating things behind the scenes to orchestrate this whole thing, which honestly makes their victory, if you even want to call it that, even more unsettling.
Totally. And what about Sasha and Warden, right?
Yeah.
They were so consumed by revenge, they played right into the Van Duel's hands. Makes you wonder, did they even, like, stop to think about the bigger picture at all? Or were they so focused on their own pain that they couldn't see what was right in front of them?
It's like the classic case of unintended consequences, right?
Right.
And that's what makes Cassandra's Tears so powerful, at least for me. It's not just about good versus evil or heroes and villains.
Right.
It's a story about the choices we make and then, like, the ripple effects they create and how those ripples, they often come back with, like, totally unforeseen and often devastating results.
It kind of reminds me of that quote, I think it was Churchill who said it, something like, never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake.
Yeah.
But here, it's like everyone's making mistakes.
Right. Everyone's playing their part.
And the Van Duel are the only ones who, like, see it.
Exactly. I think really what Cassandra's Tears does so well is it forces us to confront some really uncomfortable truths
Yeah.
about ourselves,
Oh, yeah.
about power and how seductive it can be, and about the terrible things that we're all capable of, even when we think our intentions are good.
It makes you think about all those, like, weapons that we develop, all that technology we're so quick to embrace without really, like, fully understanding the impact it could have.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, look what happened with the Cassandra project.
Right.
It's a perfect example. And, honestly, what's even scarier is that a lot of times we're the last ones to realize the danger.
Yeah.
Too caught up in our own stories, our own little bubbles, to really see the bigger picture. And by then, it's almost too late.
So, like, where does that leave us then? I mean, we've got a destroyed Van Duel flagship, a missing super weapon, and a whole lot of unanswered questions. What's the takeaway here? What do we make of all this?
Well, for me personally, I think Cassandra's Tears is a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that in a universe as vast and as unpredictable as ours, the line between winning and losing, it's razor thin. And I think it challenges us to think critically about the stories we tell ourselves, question our assumptions. But even with all that, even in the darkest times, I think there's always hope. Now, whether humanity can actually seize that hope, in the face of this huge Van Duel threat, that remains to be seen.
Yeah. And that's where Cassandra's tears leaves us, isn't it? Right on the edge of our seats, staring out into this vast unknown with more questions than answers. Makes you want to grab the next installment and just dive right back in, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, until then, we're left to ponder the choices made, the prices paid, and the potential consequences that ripple outward from just this single devastating weapon.